The hip flexors are among the most important muscles you do want to stretch if you want to have flexible legs and hips. I'm talking about the iliopsoas, I'm talking about the quadriceps and other muscle groups like the adductors, where you have your gracilis, which is a hip flexor. I'm the flexibility guy, Coach Elia, and in this video I'm going to show you the best exercises you want to use to stretch your hip flexors like crazy. Let's go. The flexibility guy, Coach Elia. The first exercise I do want to show you is the lunge. Who doesn't know the lunge? Everyone knows the lunge, but doing a lunge and doing a lunge to increase the hip flexors flexibility is a different thing. Let me explain to you why. So, how to correctly perform a lunge position to stretch the hip flexors, the PSOAS in this case in particular, alright? So you do want to start in lunge, but you have to figure out the correct setup, alright? So, the front shin bone has to be perpendicular to the floor. So I want to bring my front leg in this kind of position. I can keep a yoga block under the same hand of the front leg. So I have my left leg in front of me. I want to keep a yoga block under my left hand. Now from this position, the stretch is created by bringing the hips down this way. But this, most of the time, isn't sufficiently strong to stretch your hip flexors. So what you do want to do, you grab a weight, you start on top, and you let the weight pull your hips down. Now at this point, to correctly create the stretch, I do want to inhale, and on the exhale, get deeper into the stretch. To get deeper into the stretch, I want to move my hips further down. And as I do that, I do want to keep my belly in, so I do want to flatten my lower back, posterior tilt, keep my shoulders on top of my hips, so I don't want to drive my body forward. I do want to keep my shoulders on top of my hips, flatten my lower back, and from this position here, keeping my front shin bone perpendicular to the floor, get down, get into the stretch. A little tip I can give you here is this. You do want to bring this hip here, the back hip, towards your front here. In this way, you're gonna create the correct trajectory to feel the stretch in the deepest way possible. Here are the mistakes you do want to avoid. You don't want to drive your front knee out, you do want to keep your front knee in. Second, you don't want to arch your back, but you do want to flatten your lower back as much as possible and keep it perpendicular to the floor. Third mistake, you don't want to drive your trunk toward your front leg, but you do want to keep your trunk as perpendicular to the floor as possible. Think about keeping your shoulders on top of your hips. You want to repeat this kind of work on both sides. If you have a stiffer side, you do want to perform a set more on that side. Yeah, the lunge is fantastic. The lunge is fantastic when you know what to do in the lunge to stretch your hip flexors, and I hope that now you know. This second exercise I do want to show you now is fantastic as well. You do need minimal equipment, but it's gonna be even more intense than this first one. Let's get into it. For this second exercise for your hip flexors, you just need a wall, some yoga blocks, and a weight. Now, what you do want to do is this. You do want to put your back knee on the floor and against the wall, like this. Back foot against the wall as well. Now you take a big lunge with your front leg and you start with your shoulders up. So you drive your shoulders up toward the wall and you keep your hips in posterior tilt. So you do want to flatten your lower back, keep your body perpendicular to the floor. Front hand on top of the front knee. Now from here, keeping my shoulders back, I do want to drive my hips down, and this creates the stretch, and I can do this dynamically, which means I go down and up, always keeping my shoulders on top of my hips. Can you see? On the last rep, I can also remain in the position. This is static. I just remain here and I try to drive my hips further and further into the stretch. You don't want to drive your front knee out. You do want to keep your front knee in line with your front hip. To intensify the stretch, of course, you can, again, use a weight to make it harder, and you can also apply this strategy. You can push your back knee down for 10 seconds, this is PNF, and after that, you do want to move your knee up. So you do want to squeeze your glutes and try to move your knee up for 10 seconds. This is called antagonist contractions. This is really good. All right, these are isometric contractions. So you just want to hold the pressure down, hold the pressure up, 10 seconds, then you stop, inhale, exhale. You try to get deeper and intensify the stretch. Wow, fantastic. If this exercise is too hard for you, this is too intense, you have one strategy you can use. So you just want to do this. You want to move your back knee away from the wall. This way you're gonna decrease the intensity of the exercise. It remains the same, all right? So you do want to start on top, shoulders on top of your hips, posterior tilt, flatten your lower back, drive your hips down. Everything is the same, but in this case, the extension of your back leg is gonna be a little less, and it's gonna pull a little less as well. But it's good because you do want to start from here and eventually increase the intensity of the stretch as you get better and better. You can repeat this kind of work on both sides. If you have a stiffer side, you can perform one set more on that side. Yes, the second exercise, I call it the hip flexors against the wall. This particularly targets the PSOAS. Is fantastic and one of the strongest stretches you can do for your psoas muscle, more in general for your hip flexors. But now I got a third one for you, which is highly technical, but really one of my favorite ones, all right? Let me explain to you how to do it. This third exercise for your hip flexors is a little technical, but you're gonna figure it out in a second, all right? So you do want to start in a lunge, like this. Bring your hips down, keep your shoulders in line with your hips and move your hips down. Now, posterior tilt, flatten your lower back. Yoga block under one hand, the other hand on top of your knee. Now, the stretch is all created by this. I do want to move my back foot into flexion, like this. So I put my toe on the floor. Now, I drive my hips down and I start moving my back heel back as if I wanted to kick something with my heel, push my hips down and lift my back knee. Now, check it out. Go. As I do that, I keep my hips down, well pressed against the floor. I reach the max stretch I can handle and come back, okay? So at all times I do want to keep my hips down, straighten my leg as much as I can. You may remain a little bent. This is okay. As you get better and better, you do want to straighten the back leg more and more and more. I can repeat this dynamically and I can also stay here statically, which means I stop in the stretch, breathe, and stay here. Usually 6 to 10 dynamic reps. Inhale, hold, exhale, and on the last one, just breathe into the stretch, trying to extend your back leg as much as possible and push your hips as close as possible to your front heel. In this exercise, there's one mistake you have to avoid. When you create the stretch, you don't want to lift your hips up. So when you are here, the priority is keeping your hips down. So when you are here, don't drive your hips up like this. As you can see, I'm trying to straighten my back leg and I'm kind of lifting the back hip and the hips in general off the floor. So priority, hips down, 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 and create the stretch. Stop wherever you feel the stretch on your hip flexors, on your psoas. In particular, come back down. Even if the back leg is bent, still okay. As you get better and better, you want to straighten it more. To make the exercise a little easier, you can bring your torso toward your front leg, like this. So you want to put your hands on the floor instead and perform exactly the same thing. Don't move your hips, all right? Keep your hips well pressed against the floor. Same. So I do want to kick back with my back heel, keep my hips down, straighten my back leg as much as I can, and perform the exercise to make it easier, folding my trunk toward my front leg, vice versa. If I want to make it harder, I do want to make sure to keep my shoulders in line with my hips, flatten my lower back, keep a posterior pelvic tilt, and keeping everything in place, I do want to perform the exercise. Wow. All right, guys, so these are the 3 most important hip flexors exercises you want to use if you want to increase your hip flexors flexibility. I'm talking about your whole lower body flexibility, because the hip flexors, as I said, are some of the most important muscles you want to stretch if you want to have flexible hips and legs. If you enjoyed the content, remember to hit the thumb up button and leave a comment down below to ask me questions about whatever kind of stretching related, handstand related, bodyweight related topic you may want to discuss. Also remember that you can work on your goals with a personalized program with me. We're gonna jump on a call, we're gonna talk about your goals, level of preparation, time availability and all that stuff. And we're gonna create a personalized program around that. You may want to check the link in the description for that. I got a few spots available for this free call and personalized program together. That said, thank you so much for staying with me. Have a nice stretch and see you in the next video. Bye. Hey, if you want to improve your legs, hips, lower body flexibility in general, and you also want to master the splits, in this book you can find all the exercises you need. This is called Split Sacking and you can find it on Amazon right now.